Hi there. My name is David Taylor, and I'm an IAB director. I'm here with,
Sarah Palmer, I'm the CEO of the IAB.
and this is the latest in the series of videos that Sarah and I have been doing, talking about issues relating to our members and finance in general. And today has been the day of the King's Speech.
Yes, we've just been watching that and analysing that. I think probably what's most relevant for us within that was the talk about the skills development of the Skills Council and Apprenticeship Levy Fund.
Yep.
Does anyone want to comment on that?
Well, clearly this is something which is very close to our heart, and I know that the new Labour administration are very keen on trying to progress skills and try and coordinate it a little bit more as well. I think we've all found that everyone has been talking about skills, but it's not actually been coordinated and hasn't really manifested itself. And I think within that, they are starting to look at more micro-credential based qualifications and skills, which I know is something that we're passionate about here at IAB.
Yeah, very much so. I think it'd be really interesting to see what the new government has to say, actually. Already within the first week, isn't there? There's lots of changes. So I think it's watch this space. But we'll be following all the education developments very, very closely.
Yep. Excellent. Another thing also they spoke about in the King's Speech today certainly was a focus abroad. Inexorably, you can't help but look abroad. And they were talking obviously about trade, or talking about the issues around safety and security. And that's really, I guess, our topic for today. We're looking at the fact that we are operating now in a global market. We have been for some time, and really it's understanding how our members can navigate their way through that market. They're not necessarily our members, but some of their businesses.
But that's, I mean, globalization is absolutely not a new concept. We're fully familiar with that. But I think post-COVID, or during COVID really, and then with the Ukraine war, I think what's become very clear is how it impacts us on an individual, very clearly how it impacts us on an individual basis. And if I give an example, really, I suppose with the Ukraine war and all the Russian sanctions that came in, I mean, it's so difficult to open bank accounts now. So things that happen miles away are really impacting us. And I think also from running our own businesses, financial practices, while our businesses are UK based, or the majority of them are, I think it's impossible to think that they are, constrained by the shores of the UK.
No, of course.
The supply chains are, are so interlinked, and I think it's important for us to have a real eye on what's going on in the world and have a basic understanding of geopolitics, or at least understand what's going to impact our clients, because it's our job, looking after supporting their businesses really is to identify those threats and opportunities at the same time that can impact all around the world.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating point, because if you go back 10 or 15 years, many of our members may not necessarily have been impacted at all by what was going on abroad, but the world is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I think also another thing would be, with the arrival of e-commerce and the internet, it means that any business anywhere can operate globally, and that just wasn't the case before. And therefore, if you're going to be doing their finances and understanding how you need to be as conversant with it as well.
And I think, and another, I suppose, a very good example is well, now we've left the European Union, obviously we don't fall underneath some of the new legislation that's come out. So, for example, in Europe now, there is it's now becoming law to be able to invoice through e-invoicing, and that hasn't impacted us in the UK. However, if we are dealing with customers or suppliers in Europe, we need to be aware of the new legislation that they are having to deal with. So again, that's quite a good example of that updating legislation as well. I am hoping actually that some of this red tape around Brexit might be reduced with the new Labour government. They seem quite keen on reducing some of the red tape.
Yes, and I think it's I sense that there may well be some form of rejoining certain elements of the EU, because it makes sound commercial sense, if nothing else. So the other thing, I guess, with globalization is, I guess it's not just about the clients that you may have. It's maybe even your business, and this brings us on to sort of the outsourcing idea.
Yeah.
This is something you've done with Women Who Count, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose I've been quite comfortable with dealing with people, mainly people, isn't it? Outside the UK, I've been doing this for a long time. So within Women Who Count, I have outsourced to actually one of our member benefits, Be Free. They've been a fabulous support. But I suppose not only staff within Women Who Count, but we have staff that we deal with in the IB that are outside of the UK as well. So I think that globalisation is real positive to be able to access talent and the right talent, and also probably at the right price too, because there's a commercial element as well to making those decisions about who you engage with and who you deal with, and then that has to be balanced with that threat too of data security, and we've touched on these points before in cyber security, but I've become quite comfortable with that, and I think it's presented real opportunities for growth.
And it's interesting. I think I sense from talking to lots of members, I think that people like the idea of outsourcing, but they're actually quite scared about it because it's for all those reasons you've just said. It's new and it's different. And I think one thing is struck me is if there are ways of streamlining your business, so you have more time or you can grow, that makes absolute sense. But I think with anything, if it's new and different and you're dealing with people who might be thousands of miles away, it's and
I'd caveat that with it not being the silver bullet, it's a growth strategy. Using outsource or people outside the UK, it's another method of hiring. It's not they're going to solve my problems, or so I think if you approach outsourcing or hiring really in that respect, you won't go wrong.
And I think you've touched on it already, Sarah, is that notwithstanding all of these issues, so whether it's, dealing with international currency transfers, you're dealing with cyber threats, you're dealing with maybe staff abroad and outsourcing, essentially you've got to get your business practice right, haven't you? You've got to have your business in the right frame of mind.
You do, and you need to understand where the threats are coming from. So especially when I put my AML hat on, so any clients that I'm dealing with, I'd be looking at the context of the environment that they themselves are working in. So I understand what business sets they have, because obviously if they are a client of mine, I need to understand how high risk they are to me.
Yep.
So again, it's that awareness of what's going on in the world, so that you can mitigate your own risks around that too, or decide, whether you want to engage with a client, because you might decide that it is just too high risk. So that's your choice. You don't have to engage with every client, but it's nice to decide, from an educated point of view.
And I think it's getting the basics right. I mean, it is absolutely something we talk about a lot at IAB. It's doing the basics right. And again, if you're going to then expand, if you've got the right foundations, you've got the right processes, you've got the right education, then you're going to be okay. But clearly, if you're going to be operating in a global market, although the opportunities are manifest and great, the threats obviously become equally as great.
But I would say we just are dealing in we are operating in a global market. So it's I just want people to be thinking in that mindset, if you like, so that they view risks through that lens.
And as an organisation, we obviously are there to support you as the members. I think there are three areas particularly which we're helping is certainly around the education. So all the topics that we've been discussing today, I know that we've been bringing up within newsletters, the magazine, coffee mornings. It comes up very regularly, and you also, AML, the AML Complete. Did you want to sort of bring in how important that can be to equipping you for a global market?
Yeah, and I think what probably needs to be understood, I mean, that piece of software that we've designed has there's been a lot of thought gone into how the risk rating is actually designed and how that gets presented to our members, just to again raise their awareness for information purposes. And as there's new risks in the environments, we're obviously environmental scanning all the time. We can we automatically bring that into the software and update it. So again, it means that our members have got the most current and up-to-date information. Again, for them to make a decision.
And this is, I mean, we have worked really hard on this product, and it's best in class, and for very good reasons. I suppose the last thing then is also around the qualifications, and we've got IFRS. Did you want to just quickly talk about that? Level 4?
We've spoken about this before, but with the globalization lens, which fits today, again, it just the world is becoming more and more of a level playing field, and again, this qualification is around international reporting standards, which are becoming standardized globally.
Right.
So that's the driver for the development of that qualification, and it very much. And I actually really recommend people in the UK to be thinking about taking this up, because this is one of our best-selling qualifications overseas, which I think just demonstrates awareness of those markets. So for me, I really want to raise that awareness in the UK. This is legislation globally now. So if you want to be really operating in that global market, then again, it's another, it's just a piece of knowledge. It's another qualification, and actually something that you can monetize too.
Excellent. Well, lots and lots of food for thought there. The world is getting smaller and smaller as we progress, but some fascinating topics there.
Interesting. It's where I sit. I love all this.
Yes, absolutely. And as I say, what's fascinating for me, if we think about financial support firms, the thought that they'd be operating in a global market a few years ago would almost seem nonsensical. But we're here in Paddock Wood, but equally we could be trading with Vietnam or New Zealand at the touch of a button. But you need to be prepared. And
I've got a call from India, so it's day to day for us.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time as ever, Sarah, and we look forward to seeing you next month.